Prep High School. Have you guys heard Race Prep
Yes.
High School?
Yeah.
Yes. And I am a senior. My name is Jung, like jungle, Jung. And I am here to teach you guys about the 3 laws of motion. And I've heard you guys are doing the 3 laws of motion. Can anybody name all 3?
Raise your hand, guys.
Right? Force does what? Right? Yes. Force is pull. Yes. Yeah. Well, what would force do? Yeah, you're fine. Yeah. Okay.
Motion.
Right. Motion.
Move an object.
So basically, anything that's moving in our everyday life can be set into these 3 laws of motion. So. I guess I'll just continue.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I will,
No, it's fine.
it's
Yeah.
just not moving.
It's my fault. Yeah. I should have probably let you know.
I just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
I just didn't think about that. I got it on Google Drive, but I never thought
Mhm,
the
yeah.
slides were,
Sorry.
yeah. It's okay.
Friction.
Right. Friction's also a part of motion. Does anybody know who came up with these 3 ideas of motion? Oh wow, you got a lot.
Isaac Newton.
Right.
That's how.
Oh, your name's Isaac. Nice. So, as we all know, Isaac Newton's the one who came up with the 3 laws of motion. And can anybody tell me another thing that he came up with that's really, really important in our life? You guys all heard this at least once in your life. Come on. It starts with a G.
Gravity.
There you go. He came up with the idea of gravity. You know the little story of him sitting under an apple tree and the apple falling on him. He got the idea of gravity. So that's the same dude, Isaac Newton, and the 3 law of motion. And so we're gonna just explore the 3 laws of motion today. And so the first motion of law is an object that's gonna be in motion is going to stay in motion, and an object that's stationary is going to stay in that same place, right? And so this is closely related to inertia. Does anybody know what inertia is? You seem like a smart kid.
So if you make like a right turn at really high speed, your body goes left because your body wants to keep going in a
Right,
straight line.
right. So it's basically an idea.
Tendency of an object towards against changes of motion.
Yeah, well, you read it out loud, but yeah, that's basically it. It's basically how scientists they come up with this term to let people know how hard is something to move, and inertia is determined by the mass of the object and how fast it's moving, the velocity. And so, for a good example of this is, it would be really hard to stop a moving truck, right? That would hurt a lot if you jump in front of a moving truck, right? Like that, it's really hard to. But then again, if you try to stop something, like a bike, a moving bike, that'll be a lot easier, right? So in this term, scientists say, a moving truck would have a bigger inertia than a moving bicycle. Does everybody get that?
Yes.
Alright. So we're going to do a little experiment about the first law of motion. And here I have a little tablecloth. Spray it across here. Should probably got a smaller one. Alright. I got a bunch of books that are really heavy. And you guys see this all over YouTube, right? There's a full set of table, and there's a tablecloth underneath it, and somebody pulls it out really quick. What happens with everything that's on top? It stays there, right? So why do you think it does that?
Because because it wants to stay at rest because it's still at rest.
So everything that's on the table is gonna have inertia and it's gonna stay there because it wants to stay there and it's not moving. And so the more mass it has, the more heavier these books are, it's gonna have the more tendency to wanna stay there. And so let's give this a try. I'm gonna have to pull this real fast. So 3, 2, 1. Alright? So you can see that the table wanted to stay there, and so even if you move the tablecloth underneath it, it stayed, right? So it's a pretty quick way to understand the first law of motion. Now, the second law of motion is a little weird because most people just say it's F equals ma. Now, do you know, you said force and mass, and does anybody know what A stands for in F equals ma? 1? No.
It starts with the letter A, and we've used the word a lot.
Acceleration.
Right, it's A, so it'll stand for acceleration. So do you know what acceleration is?
The change of speed or direction.
Right, yeah. It's a change of speed or direction and difference of time. And so anything that's moving will have acceleration. And so it'd be great if I had that slide up right now with the definitions.
Okay, can I just do it in Google Drive because it's not loading? The
Yeah,
slides are
I
not
think
loading.
that slide would be okay because I didn't
It's
put anything in.
ridiculous. It's like.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's just our internet is so frustrating here.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Oh, yeah, that's right there.
Please give me that.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So if you see in the board right now, you can see that force is an interaction that will change the motion of an object. And it's basically like
The push or pull of
Yeah,
an
the
object.
push or pull of an
So we
object.
talked about how when I pushed my chair over, that's a
Yeah.
force, right? I shocked them one day and pushed the chair over.
This is cute, you kicked it.
I kicked it
And
over,
then you
and I was
knocked it
showing
over.
them that the outside force was my kick.
And then
Right.
the next day you knocked it.
I knocked it over by mistake, yeah.
And it's gonna break
Yeah, I hope not.
probably.
If I keep putting too much force on it, I'm gonna break it, right?
Yeah. You just used that force.
I once broke a Lego brick.
So did I.
Is it loading?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's loading. It's just I wanted this slide up.
Perfect,
Yeah.
okay. I s-
And the M stands for mass, and it means the quantity that is in the matter. So it's basically your weight. How much do you guys weigh?
117.
Right? So that'll be your mass, right? That'll be all of your guys' mass.
Exactly 82 pounds.
Wow, you guys are small. 82 pounds.
56.
And A would stand for acceleration, right? And acceleration is the rate of change in velocity with respect to time, so like we talked about. And so F equals ma basically just means if something that has mass, like this chair, if this moves with an acceleration, it will have force in it. You can calculate the force of that moving chair, basically. And so the faster you move, the more acceleration you have, the bigger the force you're gonna get. And the bigger the mass is, the stronger you are, the bigger the force is gonna get. Did you guys get it? Alright, so we're just gonna watch a small video, short video, about this. It's about football.
Guys, listen.
Cowboy.
Takes more than just nerves of steel and a strong leg when playing basketball. And it is Newton's second law of commotion. The second law is one of 3 laws described in 1687 by Sir Isaac Newton, who used them to describe how and why objects move. Doing something over and over and over again. To reduce the chance of a block, NFL kickers take just 3 steps to the ball. The final step is with the plant foot, which provides the stable platform for the kick. I call it the moment of truth, and the moment of truth is basically when your plant foot hits the ground next to the ball. You're either in the right position or the wrong position. The kick itself involves the entire leg building the force necessary to launch the football. It's a hammer, and you're swinging the hammer, and you're trusting it, and it's going to be, there's going to be impact in the ball with great velocity.
An NFL kicker's foot is in contact with the ball for just 8/1000ths of a second. And in that time, his foot applies up to a ton of force to the ball. This quick, violent strike is a perfect example of what's known in physics as an impulse.
Impulse is an important concept because there is a finite time over which the foot is in contact with the ball, and during that time there's a force applied to the football.
An impulse is equal to the force multiplied by the time the force is applied, represented by delta T. If force is graphed versus time, it's possible to see how a larger force for a longer time for the force supplies a bigger impulse.
Since impulse is really just the change in momentum,
Whether the kick is short or long, Newton's second law explains what an NFL kicker must do to send a football through the uprights.
The Sox went to the playoffs.
Okay, so we looked at the first and the second, and now we're going to look at the third. Does anybody know what the third is? Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
don't
on
know
the
you
board,
guys'
back of
name.
the board and on our books.
Oh,
For every
dang.
action, there's an equal and opposite reaction or force occurred in
Right, yeah. Exactly. For every action, there's an
Equal
equal and
and
opposite reaction, right? Yeah. So can you explain that?
We were
so
just starting to go over it, so.
every action, there will be an equal amount of force with the reaction and an opposite amount of force of the reaction. So like when someone kicks it, that's the action,
Right.
but it's hard to kick it straight. So that's the opposite. The equal is if you kick it straight.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really hard to understand this because when I was researching for this, I didn't know what it was talking about for a second there. And so what I like to think about with this law is I don't really like to think about it in this term. I like to think about it in consequences. You know what that word means, right? So,
Punishment.
well, yeah. What happens if you punch the wall? Right? So when you punch a wall, your hands is gonna start hurting, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be the action that you're doing, punching the wall, and the reaction that you're gonna get is your face hurting. So it's basically the wall punching you back, essentially. So you guys get that? So if you, I heard you guys talking whenever I walked in, when you're pushing on a scooter, the action of you is putting your leg on the ground and pushing yourself, right? And what would the reaction be? Yeah, you guys can shout it out. Right. So you starting to go, yeah, accelerating. So I like to think of it as a consequence of you doing something. You punch a wall, your hands are gonna start hurting. If you push on the ground, you're gonna start moving, right? It's basically just you guys having fun. So what happens, I'm just gonna bring one of you guys up here and
The one we can move our chair.
yeah.
Remember, guys, we're not pelting the ball as hard
Yeah,
as
don't-
we
yeah,
can, like
don't,
we're in
like-
gym class,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah. Just give it a light understroke, okay?
There you go.
So before we do this, what do you think will happen if one of the balls hit the bottle? Wow, there's a lot. So I don't know.
Bottle will knock over.
So the action of me is the ball hitting the bottle, and the reaction would be
The bottle knocking over.
right. So that's a classic example of the third law. So who wants to go? At least everybody can go.
Yeah, we only have 13.
All right. Why not? Why not? If you miss, you can go again.
reaction has an equal and opposite reaction, and then it can be more than one reaction to that.
Right, yeah. Anyone else?
I learned that with the balls that it's with the every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So with people who want for it hard to knock down the bottles, the reaction is that they tend to miss or only get one. But who went on the side, there was a higher chance because we had closer aim to it, and if we do it lighter, it'll tend to hit it light enough that it won't go like kabang and fly off. They'll go boing.
What if the bottles were filled with soda?
Then if it was filled with soda, it would be really hard and you'd have to throw with the basketball pumped up harder and you'd have to throw really harder.
Ooh, because
Football
the
foam
what's
might-
bigger?
The mass is
Yes.
greater with the
What?
it filled with soda, and then if you try to drink it, it'll go.
So, because
Yeah.
it has more mass, what does it have more? You learned this?
It'll have more
Starts with
Law
I.
number one.
force.
No, it will have more. There you go. It'll have more inertia, so it'll be harder to move it. So yeah, I don't know your guys' names.
That's
sorry.
okay.
My name. I kind of noticed that with the basketballs and so I exactly tried both. With the basketball, I noticed that it was kind of harder. Like it was like kind of squishier, and the football, it was kind of harder. So maybe the football would have, or basketball would have more of a chance of coming out.
Good observation.
Were they both the same mass, the two balls?
No, the basketball is a little heavier, right, guys?
Yeah. I noticed how.
But the shape of the football is different, so all of that, depending on how you throw it, could affect how the results.
I noticed how Radiant got them all. Because like we were inside with the basketball, and like since it hit one of the sides, like yeah, it was sort of like dominoes, but you could also like go flying into like two, like flying into that one, and then that one roll, hitting that one, and then that one hit that one.
Right, yeah. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this.
Yeah, we
My
did.
first time ever attempting a class, so.
I told them that. I told them that it's not easy to come and just come teach a class of 10-year-olds
Yeah, it's not
when you've
easy.
never done it
It's not
before.
easy.
Yeah, so it's a good experience for him to be able to have that experience and think about, science is really hard to bring down to a kid level.
Yes.
It's a complicated thing, so you're learning a lot of good foundation, and when you get to Mr. Schreck, he's gonna really build on that and really challenge you to think even more. So this is what I'm trying to give you, is a good foundation for that.
But I hope you guys learned that it's also fun. Science is really fun.
Yes, they love, actually, they love science.
Yeah.
Science!
A lot of the stuff that you guys do is related to science, and so I hope you guys could build on more of that in the future.